What is the Church of the Subgenius? You know, that is a great question that none of us have been able to answer after 30 years of it. Except that it's definitely the church devoted to J.R. Bob Dobbs, that smiling, mysterious face, the square with the pipe that you see tattooed on so many weirdos' body parts. And Bob started this church back in the 50s as I guess you could call it a disorganized religion for non-joiners and weirdos, mutants, disbelievers, or our favorites, those who will believe anything. So it's kind of gotten to be a social club in the last few years. We were surprised that the weirdos would be able to get along with each other as well as they do, for the most part.
Yeah, no, it definitely seems it seems to have been going quite well. I mean, when did it start officially?
Well, we first released the secret material to the public in January of 1980, 28 years ago. But our guru, Bob, had been developing this ever since his divine immaculation in 1953, when he had a vision of the alien space god Jehovah One, a sort of a multi-dimensional monster that has pretended to be God successfully to many cultures over the centuries. This creature informed Bob that throughout history there's been a conspiracy of normal people robbing away the slack of all the abnormal and strange people.
Okay, well,
I guess this was part of Jehovah's One's design to extract more agony from the human race, but then apparently this space god wanted to sell the planet off to some other aliens and wanted Bob to get it into better shape for the sale. So Bob was commissioned to travel the world and recruit people to build up his church that would in turn build up more slack for the truly worthy persons. That is, anybody who sends us $30. That would be 20 euros, I guess.
It's about 15 pounds, I think.
Yeah, and technically, you know, a subgenius isn't just anybody who has $30. The true subgeniuses are the people who are descended from the Yeti of the Himalayas, or the Sasquatch of the Americas. But nobody believes that. And so we found that if we charged $30 for membership, people took us a lot more seriously.
I was just looking at your Wikipedia page for Subgenius, and it says here that the Subgenia are not humans, but they're actually mutant offspring of forbidden sexual union that took place millions of years ago. Is this correct?
Right. The aliens that we're concerned with from Planet X came to Earth just before the end of the age of dinosaurs, created the Yetis in a test tube, and then the Yetis created humans to be beasts of burden, or lab rats. The tragedy is that the dinosaurs were wiped out because of an Exist picnic, and the humans escaped from the Yetis' labs and started interbreeding with some of the feeble-minded among the Yeti. And thus we see the human race today, a hodgepodge, a mishmash that's mostly purebred human, i.e. lab rat, or the partial Yeti genetics. And that's those are the weirdos and misfits and malformed criminals that compose the Church of the Subgenius. And we're always looking for new ones.
How many members do you get? Or a year, roughly?
Well, these days, about, depending on the weather, 3 to 5 people officially join the church every day. We've probably totaled up, it's hard to say, because a lot of them have moved and we've lost track of them. I mean, we've been around 28 years. I would guess that roughly 30 to 40,000 people have sent that $30.
Yeah.
Although we can only get our hands on about 8,000 of them at any given time. What's strange about this is look at some of the cults that get so much press. Heaven's Gate, the famous suicide cult. Jonestown, another famous suicide cult. The Branch Davidians from my hometown in Texas.
Yeah.
And those cults are like maybe 100 to 1,000 people, if that many. Heaven's Gate only had 39 casualties. Well, there's so many subgeniuses that we won't even begin to pass out the poison Kool-Aid unless we know we can off 1,000 people at once. So we're the Jonestowns and the Branch Davidians, and there's some end of the world people in Russia lately, and we had fundamentalist Mormons here, and once again in Texas, in the U.S., causing some embarrassment for the authorities. And yet the Church of the Subgenius is much, much bigger than most of those.
Yeah.
So I can see why the conspiracy tries not to talk about us.
Yeah.
So it would only make things worse for them.
You're more of a powerful group in numbers, at least.
Right. Well, and that's about all we have is numbers. None of us are very good with weapons. We're not really, most of us are not violent except with our dearest friends and loved ones. So it's not much of a terrorist kind of a cult. And plus, we're into slack.
Yeah.
Bob said the aliens will come in the year 1998 and destroy all the humans and save the dues-paying subgeniuses. So every year we wait to see whether this is the real 1998. But we're not going to destroy the world ourselves. We're slackers, and we're going to wait and let the aliens do it for us.
Yeah.
Now, in the meantime, while it is impossible for an individual to defeat the conspiracy of all the billions of normal people, at the same time, it's possible for every weirdo to make his or herself a little bit stronger and less dependent on the conspiracy. And as horrible as this may sound, that may require getting a job and moving out of one's parents' house, or something equally radical.
Yeah.
Although what we shoot for, what we really want in our religion is complete and utter slack. We figure the world owes us a living.
Yeah.
And so it's okay to, as we say, gob on life and just soak up dole money, I suppose. The ironic thing is that I just had to pay big taxes. The church itself had to pay taxes. Because we're the only religion in the U.S. that openly admits that it's a complete fraud, which makes us the only honest religion.
Yeah.
Now, is that ironic or what? But by the same token, since we're not claiming to be saving everybody in the world, we're considered just a joke company, and so we have to pay taxes like everybody else.
Yeah. The
government subsidizes all the other religions, at least they do here, by not taxing them. And we're the one holdout. We'll continue to pay our taxes as long as they don't expect us to act nice.
Seems like a good deal to me.
Right.
So
and we hold events. I mean, this isn't just a paper tiger church. We don't actually get along with each other all that well, but once a year we hold big events in both one in Europe and one in the U.S. We're hoping to spread even further to Oz and so forth. But every July 5th we hold X Day. So far they've all been X Day drills where we practice for the end of the world. We hope that each July 5th will be that prophesied day, but we're fanatics. We don't care if we have to wait 8,000 years.
Yeah.
As long as we get our slack.
As long as you get your slack.
And plus, these parties are really fun. The X-Day parties are great. I mean, they're kind of like a cross between a sci-fi convention, a swingers convention, and I don't know, some sort of twisted lab experiment, behaviorist experiment. We hold them. The ones in the U.S. are held at a clothing-optional campground in New York State, which is normally used by pagans.
Is that Brushwood? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Brushwood, where you can stay up all night long banging on guitars or drums, and the ladies can walk around with their shirts off if they want to. Unfortunately, it's always the obese men who choose to do that. But it's really a lot of fun, and the one in Europe this year is in Copenhagen, I think around July 5th, but I'm not even sure where. So, but we've had people come to the one in New York from all over the world. Some poor devil showed up from China once.
Wow.
And we're hoping to get a whole gaggle of them from Great Britain this time.
Yeah.
We have a lot of friends in, all over the place there. There's several British popes of the Subgenius Church in competition with each other, of course.
Can you tell me the story about, I was reading a blog article about I think it's the second to last time you came to the UK, and the alleged head of the European clench, is it, of the Church of Subgenius, Pope Black, was replaced by a dog.
Yeah, Pope Black kind of let us down that particular tour. We were he got us to the Devival in Hamburg, and that went fine. But then he sort of vanished, and we missed our train to Amsterdam and missed a lot of slack that way. And finally, we found him in a bar in Hamburg trying to pick up a girl, and he actually looked up at us and said, "Oh my God, you guys! I thought I'd missed the train." I guess you could call that a case of time control. So we were pretty mad at him, and we elected Pope Pero the Pope. He's a little scroungy, angry-looking dog owned by a German fellow named Reverend Kai Whitke. Pope Pero is actually Spanish.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the dog himself is from Spain, and that didn't slow Pope Black down. Now, keep in mind, Pope Black is an American.
Yeah.
So this doesn't reflect upon any European folks. He had a lot of nerve declaring himself Pope of all Europe to begin with. But I just got a letter from him this morning in which he resigned.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, he willingly what happened was he got married.
Again?
She made him quit drinking.
Oh, God.
Suddenly he's not a Subgenius Pope anymore. Plus, I think he lost a lot of money on the last Devival in Hamburg.
Yeah.
Which he should expect. I mean, Bob takes the money.
Yeah.
Bob is the rich guru.
Yeah, it's not Pope Black.
And when there's anything left over, I get paid.
Yeah.
So we'll actually, I hope that Pope Black continues to organize things and spend his own money on them.
So we've been talking a lot about J.R. Bob Dobbs, but could you give us like a brief overview or biography of who he is? And
the great Bob Dobbs was born of a woman, although it was sort of a miraculous birth. She wanted to get an abortion, but the tenacious child Bob could not be removed from her holy womb, the womb of Jane Dobbs.
Yeah.
So they took her out to a Kansas wheat field and waited for a tornado to come, and that successfully yanked the fetus Dobbs out of Jane's womb. But then when she saw the beauty of Bob's fetusly visage, she, of course, fell in love with him and was glad she had not put him to death. Although, oddly enough, in the Church of the Subgenius, abortions are legal up until the 15th year for any given fetus.
Yeah.
They don't have to be in utero anymore to be aborted in the Subgenius family. So these kids better watch their step. But Bob as Bob grew up, he demonstrated almost magical powers. It was like he could read minds and control the minds of people. And he was rich by the time he was 6 years old on the stock market. And it's not that he's brilliant. In fact, Bob is kind of what you would call retarded. If you look at his face, he has that vacant grin, almost like a crazy man's grin. It's not that he's intelligent, but that he is lucky, and hence the term subgenius. This isn't about intelligence. It's just the opposite. We feel like intelligence has been misdefined by the conspiracy of the normals for all these centuries, and that it's not being smart that counts, it's being lucky. Bob is the luckiest fellow in the world, and for years he was known among salesmen as the greatest salesman in the world. He could sell hypocrisy to Baptists, ice to Eskimos, and hate to subgeniuses. And eventually he realized that if he turned his gifts to religion, he could sell and sell and sell without ever really even having a solid product that you could put your fingers on.
So he was literally selling nothing.
The belief in Slack was enough. And so he recruited Dr. Philo Drummond, who then recruited me, and together Philo and I in Dallas put together the initial Subgenius pamphlets that were designed to rope in seekers and suckers. Because we'll take, even if somebody's really just a normal who's mentally ill and thinks they're a subgenius, we'll still take their money. L. Ron Hubbard taught Bob that although they may be pink of soul, their money is green in color. And that's all that counts. In this country, all of our cash is the same dull color, I'm afraid.
I read somewhere once Bob got in a kind of competition, as it were, with L. Ron Hubbard over who could recruit the most people and make the most money. Is this true?
Well, obviously, L. Ron Hubbard won that one. And here's the reason. Most people are dumbasses. That pretty much explains Scientology, Britney Spears, Amy Winehouse, and so many, many other, all television is explained by that fact. So we wouldn't be surprised at anything the humans do.
Yeah.
And it's hard for us to come up with things to surprise each other anymore.
Yeah.
But somehow I always manage to get scared to death by some subgenius almost every X day.
I just want to go back to some of the more technical details of the church, I suppose. What is a clench?
A clench was a bad idea that Philo and I came up with. That wasn't Bob's. The idea was that subgeniuses who all live in the same town could get together and have regular meetings and strengthen the church that way. What we did not take into account is that by definition, every subgenius is totally different from every other one, and I mean really different.
Yeah. The
only thing we have in common is that we have nothing at all in common with the conspiracy of the normal people. So what has happened over and over again is these subgeniuses get together and meet, and within 3 or 4 meetings, they absolutely hate each other. And it has even come to violence a few times. So I wish we could remove that section out of the book of the Subgenius. That was a money-making scheme that was purely something that Philo and I came up with. It wasn't doctrinal to Bob.
Yeah.
And I wish I could take it back. Most subgeniuses work better as what you might call a solo clench. That way, and our political stance works the same way. We don't recognize the false divisions of liberal and conservative and so forth anymore. Our political party is called patriopsychotic anarcho-materialism, which can be summed up with the phrase, every yard a kingdom.
Yeah.
Or queendom, although usually it's the checkbooks that are the queendom.
Yeah.
In many families. And in other words, it's a I don't care, you don't care philosophy. As long as our neighbors can do any stupid thing they want as long as they stay out of our hair.
Yeah.
Now, that's a simple way of government. And it may be primitive, but it's fair for the strong. So we want someday for Bob to be made world overlord.
Mm.
But if Bob is everything he says he is, he might already be world overlord.
So
we just don't know it.
So it's possible that Bob may actually be the conspiracy himself.
I hate to think that. What a terrible thought. No, we don't really send all the addresses of our new members to the Homeland Security or the Illuminati for less than top dollar. If we sell you out, it's going to be for a lot of money. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But really, it's kind of like this is the church of the lone nuts. This is the church of all the Lee Harvey Oswalds. It behooves us to watch each other's backs, I suppose.
Yeah.